the second great wilderness jewel of the United States, second only to Alaska. Nearly half of its land area set aside solely for wildlife. Wolf, grizzly, bison, eagle. They stand as the ruling presence in the world of natural animal documentaries. Wyoming Wilderness, the Harshest Winter Survival Challenge. Wyoming ranks as the 10th largest state by land area in the United States, yet it maintains the second smallest population in the entire nation. This expanse stands as a resilient stronghold for the untamed wilderness of North America. At the very heart of this living ecosystem lie two of the greatest and most time-honored jewels, Yellowstone National Park and Grand Teton National Park. These are the oldest protected nature reserves in the world. Here, people are merely passing visitors, while the wild inhabitants are the true heirs who hold the legacy of this land, here to stay. Yellowstone National Park, January. People call this place the Serengeti of North America, but at this moment it feels more like a lifeless planet than an open grassland. Winter here is a prolonged siege. At elevations ranging from 1,600 to 2,000 meters, this land becomes a focal point where polar air currents from Canada pour in. Snow accumulates, stacking layer upon layer until it reaches depths of more than 1.5 meters. In the year 2026, strong fluctuations in the Arctic Oscillation pushed temperatures down to a record low of -40 degrees Celsius. Yet, within this extreme cold, life remains. In the Mammoth Hot Springs area, the Travertine limestone basins known as the Travertine Terraces create a strange thermal paradox. Water erupts from deep underground at a temperature of 80 degrees Celsius, flowing into the Gardner River and keeping it from ever freezing completely. These thermal oases have welcomed more than 20% additional wildlife compared to a decade ago. Humans, on the other hand, follow a different path. In contrast to the peak summer days when up to 3,000 people live and work here, the population dwindles to just a few hundred once winter arrives. They watch over the land and keep Yellowstone running in harmony with its true, untamed spirit. Now, let us head toward the area that draws the most visitors. Old Faithful. Every 90 minutes it releases thousands of liters of near-boiling water. Each column of water rises more than 50 meters into the air. Where do these soaring plumes of heated water come from? We are standing on one of the most unstable regions of Earth's crust. Beneath the snow and the warm streams where the American dipper forages lies an immense presence capable of reshaping the planet's climate. Everything we have witnessed, from geothermal warmth to the remarkable persistence of life, are surface expressions of a giant drawing breath. A supervolcano lies at rest, and its quiet exhalation is what powers the entire Yellowstone ecosystem. At Yellowstone National Park, since its official establishment 153 years ago, the end of one journey and the beginning of another have always maintained a delicate balance. The entire central region of the park is, in fact, a caldera, a vast, sunken basin. Its scale is so immense that even if you were standing inside its rim, you might never realize it. This enormous hollow was formed when the Earth collapsed inward after some of the most powerful volcanic episodes in planetary history. Beneath the calm presence of roaming bison lies an energy system operating on a planetary scale. A column of molten rock, known as a hotspot, continuously channels heat from deep within the Earth toward the surface. Two magma chambers are stacked like a colossal hourglass. The upper chamber sits just 5 to 17 kilometers below the surface. Beneath it, a second chamber, 4.5 times larger, remains concealed, holding enough molten material to fill the Grand Canyon more than 10 times over. The immense heat from this hidden engine warms underground water, generating the pressure that powers Old Faithful and the vivid palette of hot springs. Yellowstone's past is marked by volcanic events, rated at Volcanic Explosivity Index Level 8, the highest on the scale. The first, 2.1 million years ago, released enough ash to blanket nearly half of North America. The most recent, 640,000 years ago, shaped the landscape we recognize today. Each time this giant stirred, global climate patterns were reshaped. If it were to awaken, it would lead to a truly overwhelming geological transformation. The ground would burst open from deep within. The entire vibrant ecosystem we see today would be swept away instantly by thermal flows reaching 800 degrees Celsius. Within a radius of 100 kilometers, the local ecosystem would undergo a total transformation. 3/4 of the United States would be buried under gray snow. Yet this is not snow, but tiny fragments of volcanic rock and glass. It is so heavy that it could cause buildings to give way, block the airways of every living soul, and completely bring down the national power grid. But the true challenge lies in the stratosphere. Billions of tons of sulfur gas would create a massive veil surrounding the Earth, shielding us from the sunlight. Global temperatures would drop suddenly, summers would fade away, and a great scarcity would affect humanity as harvests fail across the globe. Yellowstone is not merely a volcano. It represents one of the most powerful geological cycles on our planet. However, data from the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory in early 2026 shows that this giant is still breathing as steady as a rock. The ground here continuously rises and falls by a few centimeters each year, a sign that the magma system below is moving and adjusting its pressure in a stable manner. The more immediate concern at Yellowstone today is not molten rock, but water. Hydrothermal eruptions, such as the dramatic event at Biscuit Basin in 2024, highlight the force of pressurized underground steam. When superheated water exceeds the limits of surrounding rock, it rapidly releases energy in a sudden transformation. In 2026, geologists closely monitor temperature changes within hot spring basins, where the line between a tranquil attraction and a steam-driven event is separated by only a few degrees Celsius. This natural heating system sustains wildlife through winter, while also remaining a latent trigger beneath the surface. As if they have made a pact for survival with nature, the bison standing near Old Faithful do not flinch. This is the only population in the United States that has maintained genetic continuity since the Pleistocene epoch. They belong to this land. Their coats have an exceptionally dense fiber structure, functioning as near-perfect insulation. Their heat retention is so effective that snow landing on their backs keeps its crystalline shape, untouched by body warmth. For a plains bison, -40 degrees Celsius is little more than a mild inconvenience. What truly challenges them is hunger. Beneath more than 1 meter of snow lies a precious supply of dried grass, but reaching it demands extraordinary strength. They use their massive heads, weighing up to 200 kilograms, as a pivot point, performing a behavior known as snow plowing. It is exhausting work, but does the grass they uncover truly repay the energy spent? This is why warm refuges like Old Faithful become tempting yet deceptive havens. Geothermal heat keeps the ground bare, with grass readily available and no digging required. But this favor comes at a cost. Spending too long within dense, sulfur-laden steam can cause serious harm to their lungs. Silica and mineral-rich chemicals from the geysers wear down their teeth at an alarming pace. A plains bison living in other parts of Yellowstone can reach an age of 20 to 25 years. However, individuals that choose life near geysers often live only around 10 to 12 years. Even so, in the year 2026, the plains bison population remains steady at 5,500 individuals. Winter is not over yet. These giants can endure the cold, but they are not the only ones. The calm before the storm. Leaving behind the bustling haze of sulfur-laced steam at Old Faithful, we move northward. At Mammoth, geothermal warmth no longer puts on a display. It lies hidden within quiet travertine limestone basins. This is a labyrinth of rock and ice where every sound is swallowed by temperatures of -30 degrees Celsius. In this whitewashed world, survival belongs to those who know how to blend into the shadows. High on the sheer cliffs surrounding human settlement, a silent presence watches. Cougar. For a fully grown male, its territory can stretch across as much as 800 square kilometers. We know them as supreme masters of ambush. A single bound can carry them 12 meters forward or lift them 5.5 meters upward in one effortless motion. Across most of this continent, the cougar sits at the very top of the food chain. But in Yellowstone National Park, when winter stretches on for half the year and the biting cold becomes the sole ruler, pride can turn into a rare luxury. Cougars must make use of snow-covered remains left behind by the season. Scavenging accounts for roughly 10 to 15% of a cougar's winter diet. They are among the most skillful opportunists in the Mammoth region. When grizzly bears leave feeding sites behind to settle into winter dormancy, cougars are often the first to arrive at the leftovers of that quiet banquet. At Yellowstone, survival is the only true reward. No room for second chances. This is true for the bobcat as well. Smaller than the cougar, this feline knows far better how to look after its own well-being. The bobcat possesses one of the most efficient insulation systems within the Felidae family. Its dense underfur, with an exceptionally high fiber density, accounts for up to 80% of the total coat mass, forming a barrier that limits heat loss through convection. Even when ambient temperatures drop to -30 degrees Celsius, the temperature at the surface of its skin remains stable at 37.5 degrees Celsius. This allows the bobcat to perform one of the most daring behaviors seen among cats, hunting along geothermal streams that never freeze. Its paws may be small, but the thick fur covering the foot pads minimizes direct contact with ice, preventing localized heat loss while it waits motionless in frigid water for hours at a time. Fishing in fast-moving water is extraordinarily complex. The bobcat must calculate light refraction to pinpoint the true position of prey beneath the surface. Its strike reaches speeds of more than 10 meters per second, driven by fast twitch muscle fibers that dominate its muscular structure. During the winter of the year 2026, when terrestrial rodent populations declined by 15% due to hardened snow cover, shifting toward fish as a protein source became a strategic move. Each fish provides roughly 150 kilocalories, enough to sustain its basal metabolic rate for 12 hours. A solitary, proud hunter now relies on small fish to endure until a greater opportunity appears. It feeds until its stomach reaches full expansion, a biological energy storage mechanism designed to carry it through the lean weeks ahead, playing the long game. Leaving the limestone maze behind, we follow the flow of heat toward the Lamar Valley. There, a river that never rests awaits other masters of swimming. creatures that hunt not only to live, but turn survival itself into a contest of intelligence. Welcome to the Lamar Valley, where the snowstorms of the year 2026 are rewriting the rules of survival. Under the influence of the Arctic Oscillation, cold here is no longer a weather condition. It becomes a relentless biological filter. Within this white dominion, a gray presence shapes the quiet fears of grazing animals. Northwestern wolf. Viewers often praise their physical strength, but in this land, muscle comes second to collective intelligence. The Wapiti Lake Pack is among the most formidable units ever recorded in Yellowstone National Park. They are masters of strategy, fully aware that a direct confrontation with a plains bison weighing close to 1 metric ton is a biologically unsustainable choice. Reality is unforgiving. The success rate of bison hunts for these wolves hovers around 10 to 15%. That means out of 10 coordinated pursuits, they may return with empty stomachs 8 or 9 times. Each hard-won feast in the snow is therefore far more than a hunt. It is a reward for persistence pushed to the limit. This confrontation has lasted over 10 hours. The seasoned bull bison knows that solid ground gives tactical advantage to its pursuers, so it makes a bold survival decision, stepping into the frigid Firehole River. Yet nature rarely grants reprieve without an embedded cost. Flowing water drains body heat dozens of times faster than still air, accelerating hypothermia. The Wapiti Lake Pack understands this principle well. They wait silently along the riverbank, letting biology do the work, a contest of patience and physiological limits. Finally, as night falls, the bison collapses from exhaustion and cold before the wolves ever deliver a final bite, a victory of attrition. The Northwestern wolf is the largest subspecies within the gray wolf family, with fully grown males reaching weights of up to 70 kilograms. But their true advantage does not lie in muscle. It lies in the design of their feet. These oversized paws function like natural snowshoes, spreading body weight and allowing agile movement across soft snow, while heavier prey sinks deeper and steadily loses strength. The most formidable weapon of the Wapiti Lake Pack is calculated persistence. With a bite force approaching 1,500 newtons at the molars, they are capable of crushing the thigh bone of a fully grown elk. Even so, their hunting success rate typically remains around 10 to 15%. This turns every pursuit into a brutal gamble of energy expenditure. Wolves do not need to outrun their prey in a single burst. They only need to endure longer in a marathon that lasts for hours. In a realm ruled by sub-zero temperatures, the victor is the one who keeps a steady heartbeat after the other has completely given way. Slow and steady wins the race. If a wolf pack marches like warriors powered by numbers, then the red fox is a true solo performer. In the monochrome world of Lamar Valley, its coat becomes the only burst of color bold enough to stand up to the severity of winter. And yet, this is one of Yellowstone's hunters, equipped with one of the most unusual biological toolkits in the wild. Its funnel-shaped ears filter out the wind, locking onto a single vibration beneath a layer of snow 1 meter thick. But extraordinary hearing is not the only asset at work here. The red fox is doing something very few mammals can do. It is reading the Earth's magnetic map. The pounce. A refined blend of physics and instinct, right on the money. This is a calculated gamble, one that depends heavily on timing and chance. In this almost ironic handstand-like pose, the red fox has only a few seconds to secure its catch with precise jaws before the snow's cold dulls the senses. A small meal demanding total focus. Yet refinement alone does not promise an easy life. Shifting climate patterns are forming broader fields of dense snow, reducing the effectiveness of these aerial leaps. More challenging still, changing snow surfaces are opening the door for rougher neighbors. The coyote. Larger in size and opportunistic by nature, coyotes in Yellowstone are increasingly moving in to claim hunting grounds once mastered by the fox. At Lamar Valley, when snowstorms drive temperatures to extreme lows, life is no longer a privilege. It becomes a negotiation. Coyotes naturally sit in the middle tier of the hierarchy within Yellowstone National Park. What has carried them through millions of years is a form of flexibility that is practical to the core. The biological radar on the coyote's head is running at full capacity. Beneath more than 50 centimeters of snow, voles move through frozen subnivean tunnels. Using auditory triangulation, the coyote pinpoints its prey with an error margin of just a few millimeters. A modest success, but an essential one. Voles are merely the appetizer for a long winter's day. As smaller food sources become scarcer, the coyote must take greater risks, aiming for larger prey that promise more reward. An adult trumpeter swan with a wingspan reaching 2.5 meters is a rare and valuable prize. In this life-or-death environment, one creature's end becomes the fuel for another's continuation, a cold, calculated cycle of life. As the snow melts, the coyote finally begins to feed. Its sharp teeth slice through the swan's thick plumage, a structure evolved to resist polar-level cold. But in this land, defending a meal alone is nearly impossible. A shadow appears overhead. With vision capable of detecting motion from kilometers away, the golden eagle locks onto the prize. And just like that, the balance shifts. The aerial hunter decides it's time for the earthbound one to share. Below the thin mist of the Lamar River, where ice can never seal the surface completely, another group of residents is busy with a very different way of life. They fully exploit winter's small openings, turning icy water into a vibrant playground, making the most of it. While much of Yellowstone National Park is locked beneath winter's enduring ice, the Lamar River stubbornly keeps flowing. For the North American river otter, this moving water is a demanding arena where survival is constantly tested. Their playful appearance cannot disguise the reality that this is a land that asks a great deal from those who live here. To sustain life in icy currents, the North American river otter maintains a metabolic rate 3 times faster than land mammals of similar size. It is an immense biological load. Each day, they must consume food equal to 15 to 20% of their body weight. When fish become scarce or difficult to pursue, otter families in Lamar Valley shift to a quieter but more mentally demanding menu: stonefly larvae. Turning over rocks in search of stonefly larvae is a clear display of advanced problem-solving skill. These larvae are rich in protein and fats, yet they remain carefully concealed. Otters must remember locations with the right current and an ideal riverbed structure. The lively motion of the North American river otter creates a striking contrast with the surrounding stillness. And slowly, the valley shows signs that energy is returning, turning the corner. At Yellowstone National Park, spring does not arrive with fanfare. It slips quietly through cracks in the stone and reveals itself in subtle shifts of light. In March, a resonant call tears through the stillness of the frozen plains. It is the trumpet announcing the return of one of the planet's most ancient residents, sandhill crane. With fossil records dating back 2.5 million years, this bird has witnessed the rise and retreat of ice ages and the fading of enormous prehistoric beasts. Its design is a masterpiece of ancient biological engineering. The secret lies in a long trachea, intricately coiled within the breastbone, functioning as a natural sound amplifier. Every call it releases is a declaration of enduring presence. They return to reclaim a realm they held long before modern humans learned how to kindle fire. As winter slowly loosens its grip, the stage of Hayden Valley comes alive with dramatic courtship dances. Sandhill cranes are steadfast romantics. These dances carry a dual meaning, a ritual that reinforces bonds and a clear message of territorial claim. With vast wingspans and bold leaps into the air, they turn dry grasslands into props for a living musical of survival. The arrival of the cranes is the first bell that stirs Yellowstone from its long sleep, setting the stage. If sandhill cranes are proud messengers announcing spring from the skies while snow still lingers, then the American pika are the cautious residents of the rocky slopes. They only truly emerge once the stones release their frozen grip. For 6 long months of severe winter, this small creature has remained hidden within a maze of rock crevices, surviving on stores gathered from the previous season. Now, as warm sunlight begins to spread across the high plateaus, their race against time officially begins. American pika are, in essence, thermodynamic athletes living right at the edge of what survival allows. The life of the American pika is a harsh temperature paradox. Their bodies function like compact furnaces, constantly running at a high internal temperature of about 40 degrees Celsius. This protects them from freezing through winter, yet becomes a critical constraint during summer. As unusual heat waves reach even the highest elevations of Yellowstone National Park, their survival margins are tested more than ever. If surrounding temperatures rise above 25 degrees Celsius for just a few hours, their cooling system begins to falter. Deep shade within rock crevices becomes the only stronghold shielding them from the sun's intense warmth. The true secret behind their persistence lies in carefully selected and stored hay piles. American pika have evolved into remarkably skilled botanical specialists. They favor plants rich in phenol, a powerful natural compound that acts as a preservative, preventing decay and fungal growth beneath deep snow for half a year. They consume plants with lower toxicity first, saving these phenol-rich reserves for late winter when toxicity has naturally broken down and the forage remains usable. Summer foraging trips of the American pika are always swift, efficient, and filled with tension. They are using every minute of the summer of 2026 to fill their stores before the cold returns. While these rocky slope dwellers stay busy with their carefully built reserves, at lower elevations, warmth is reshaping vast bodies of water. Heat rising from the earth becomes the signal for another great journey, unfolding deep beneath the river's surface, on the move once again. Summer at Yellowstone is an advance of rising heat. As warmth reaches the rocky slopes, American pika retreat into the cool darkness of deep crevices, yielding the stage to a new arms race. Attention now shifts toward the heart of the park, where Yellowstone Lake, the largest freshwater lake in North America, resting at an elevation of 2,357 meters, is shedding its final armor of ice. This is the starting line for one of the continent's most consequential biological events, where the clock starts ticking. By late May, as the ice releases its hold, Yellowstone cutthroat trout begin a demanding upstream journey into more than 60 tributary streams. This is a migration driven by renewal. The year 2026 marks a historic turning point. After years of sustained effort to remove the invasive lake trout, native fish populations have rebounded with remarkable strength. This recovery is not merely a figure in a scientific report. It represents the return of a vast protein supply network. Millions of fish eggs and tons of fresh fish become nourishment for hundreds of osprey and, most notably, for the dominant hunters of the land, bringing everything back into balance. For a grizzly bear, summer is a race against its internal clock. They do not eat simply to sustain themselves. They eat to prepare for a long seasonal shutdown that lies ahead. An adult bear may consume more than 200 different plant and animal species, yet Yellowstone cutthroat trout remains the centerpiece of this premium menu. At this stage, a grizzly bear can add up to 1.5 kilograms of body weight each day. Every muscle fiber and every layer of subcutaneous fat is mobilized, transforming river energy into raw physical strength. At Yellowstone, nature's abundance is always paired with confrontation. The grizzly bear has no concept of sharing. When a giant weighing more than 300 kilograms arrives, the rules change instantly. Hidden within the bends of the stream, a rodent with iron-infused teeth quietly builds monumental works of water engineering. During the decades when the Northwestern wolf was absent, Yellowstone National Park experienced a cascading breakdown. Overcrowded elk herds turned riverbanks into barren stretches, stripping away every young willow shoot the moment it emerged from the ground. With no building material and no food left, the last beavers were eventually forced to abandon their realm. The return of the wolves reshaped what ecologists call the map of fear. When elk no longer lingered freely along stream edges, willow trees were finally given space to grow tall again. This marked the moment when the American beaver launched its biological counter-offensive. Take a close look at its toolkit. Those distinctive orange incisors are reinforced with iron. A high iron content makes beaver teeth harder than those of any other rodent, allowing them to bring down a tree trunk 15 centimeters in diameter in just 20 minutes. This is a biological logging machine operating with remarkable precision, turning trees that stood for decades into material for something far greater. This structure is far more than shelter. It is a massive filtration system for the Yellowstone ecosystem. By slowing the current, the dam traps sediment and cleans the water, creating rich wetland habitats. Data recorded in the year 2026 shows that in areas shaped by beaver activity, biodiversity rises by 25%. Each small pond they create becomes a nursery for life, from young fish to sensitive amphibian species. In nature's demanding economy, the beaver is one of the few residents that pays its rent by building an entire city for others to share, pulling its weight. The beaver's ability to regulate water flow creates stable habitats for many other residents, even under the harshest conditions. While waterways across North America risk freezing solid during extreme cold, beaver ponds in Yellowstone continue to support life, warmed by natural geothermal heat from below. The combination of dam building and underground warmth forms small sanctuaries where the region's only songbird can still carry out underwater foraging while the world above lies completely frozen. As American beaver dams create calm oases that nurture life, another resident of Yellowstone National Park chooses a path where the current never rests. Do not be misled by its modest gray appearance. The American dipper is not an ordinary songbird that lost its way in winter. In this landscape, it is a biological nonconformist. While most birds across North America undertook journeys thousands of kilometers south to escape the cold of the year 2026, this small creature chose to stay. This is a masterpiece of evolution. The American dipper is the only songbird on the continent capable of diving and walking along the stream bed in search of food. To thrive here, it carries specialized adaptations, a transparent third eyelid that functions like diving goggles, and elevated levels of hemoglobin in the blood to store oxygen for longer periods. It calmly steps across stones on the stream bottom, searching for stonefly larvae and other aquatic insects amid rushing water. Why would such a delicate creature choose to remain inside a vast natural freezer? While nearly all other waters in the Rocky Mountains freeze solid enough for a bison to cross, Rivers such as the Gardner River and the Firehole River continue to surge. They are sustained by an unseen yet powerful source of warmth. Mineral-rich warm water from geothermal vents constantly feeds these streams, keeping temperatures above the freezing point even when outside air drops to -40 degrees Celsius during the Arctic Oscillation of the year 2026. The American Dipper does not need to migrate south because it stands atop one of the most effective central heating systems on Earth, right under its feet. Yet, the warmth that sustains these streams is not a random gift of nature. The vibrant geysers and steaming rivers are merely small vents of a far larger force concealed below. But as we leave the massive caldera of Yellowstone and move toward the south, the geology begins to tell a different story. The geothermal intensity gives way to the sharp beauty of granite peaks sculpted by ancient glaciers. Right next to the kingdom of fire and steam lies a world of sheer cliffs and lakes as clear as mirrors. Grand Teton National Park. This is not a place for those who dream of a calm postcard landscape. These granite masses, 2.7 billion years old, did not rise naturally to serve as a backdrop for amateur photographers. They were thrust upward from deep within the earth by the Teton Fault, stretching 65 kilometers, forming a harsh natural wall that separates survival from oblivion. Beneath those jagged peaks, the Jackson Hole Valley unfolds like a vast arena, where every square meter of ground is steeped in stories of endurance. Leaving behind the smooth asphalt routes built for tourists, Moose Wilson Road appears like a narrow, rugged scar cutting through the heart of the ecosystem. This is an 11-kilometer biological corridor, a natural bottleneck where encounters are never announced in advance. Anyone who has heard tales of peace in these mountains has likely never faced the reality found here. On Moose Wilson Road, privacy is a luxury nature never provides. This is a vital passageway wildlife relies on to move between feeding grounds. Summer in this high country is brutally brief. When the last snow finally retreats, the ground exhales, forming a mist that conceals outcomes best left unseen. Beneath the dense canopies of aspen forests, silence often signals a quiet pursuit underway, or the fading traces of a feast long concluded. The creatures here do not seek admiration. They seek calories to prepare for the coming winter. Every step along this road is a wager, with the odds always tilted toward the one with the sharpest senses, the name of the game. The terrain here is a maze of water, decaying wood, and primal instinct. Geological measurements confirm that these mountains are still rising at an average rate of 1 millimeter per year, yet the shifts within animal social structures happen even faster. One small misstep, one moment of complacency before raw beauty, and any position can change within the food chain. Nature in Grand Teton has little regard for human rules. It follows a single principle only. The one who adapts best will be the last still standing on Moose Wilson Road. At Grand Teton, a case of mistaken identity can lead to outcomes that are far from comfortable. Do not let the name Black Bear mislead the eye. In the western United States, these animals often wear coats of cinnamon, honey gold, or deep brown, a flawless form of camouflage beneath sunlight filtering through valley canopies. They are not gentle foragers living off scraps left behind by tourists. Black bears are biological powerhouses built to convert plant matter into muscle with remarkable efficiency. The sense of smell of an adult black bear is an evolutionary marvel. With an olfactory membrane area 7 times larger than that of the finest human-bred hunting dogs, they can detect ripe clusters of choke cherry from several kilometers away. To them, Moose Wilson Road is not a route. It is a sprawling buffet laid out in the open. As autumn approaches, these bears enter a state known as hyperphagia, an intense feeding drive. Everything narrows to a single objective, accumulating at least 20,000 calories per day to prepare for a 5-month winter sleep. Consuming massive quantities of berries without the refined hands of primates demands patience and exceptional technique. Yet, this deep focus on feeding is also when they are most exposed. Within this ecosystem, black bears must always remain aware of their larger, more temperamental relatives, the grizzly bears. A male black bear may command a territory spanning up to 200 square kilometers, moving like drifting smoke along granite cliffs. There is no need to assert status through brutal confrontations. Intelligence, memory of food landscapes, and the ability to vanish quietly are what have allowed this species to persist in Jackson Hole for thousands of years. The survival game here always rewards those who know when to feed and when to fade away, playing it smart. At the lowlands of Grand Teton, grandeur does not always arrive with elegance. The moose is a paradox of creation, a lingering presence from the Ice Age, weighing over 400 kilograms, moving through wetlands with a somber, calculated calm. This is the Harshest moose, the smallest subspecies within its family, yet the most temperamental giant in the Jackson Hole region. In reality, across the forests of North America, incidents involving people and this species outnumber those linked to black bears and wolves combined. They do not need to pursue anything to become a serious concern. They only need to feel disturbed. The feast of the Marsh King is far less indulgent than it appears. The aquatic plants it consumes in large volumes contain very little energy, yet they are a vital source of sodium. The moose's nose is a complex mechanical instrument, equipped with muscular valves that seal the nostrils, allowing it to dive as deep as 6 meters and remain submerged for up to a full minute. This reliance on water serves another practical purpose, regulating body temperature. With dense, dark fur and immense body mass, a mild 15 degrees Celsius day can feel like standing inside an oven. The marsh is not just a dining hall, it is a critical cooling system. Above its head rises one of the fastest developing biological structures on the planet. A moose's antlers can grow up to 2.5 centimeters per day, sustained by a dense network of blood vessels beneath a layer of velvet. This is a race against time. When autumn arrives, the velvet dries and peels away, revealing hardened bone blades used in contests for dominance. But the weight of this crown comes at a high cost. To maintain such massive antlers, an adult male must consume food equal to 10% of its body weight every single day. A high-risk biological investment, yet a necessary price to ensure continuation at Grand Teton. Their existence now faces new challenges. Average temperatures in Jackson Hole are rising, making cool corridors like Moose Wilson Road more crowded than ever. As heat intensifies, this plant-eating giant is forced to spend more energy simply keeping its body from overheating, leaving less time to gather the reserves needed for winter. Here, victory does not belong to the strongest, but to the one that keeps a cool head in a warming world when the heat is on. Their somber silhouettes drifting through quiet forests serve as a reminder that nature is demanding, even for those that rule the marshlands. Within the deep green maze of Grand Teton National Park, silence does not mean absence. A hunter is concealed in plain sight. The great gray owl, the northern phantom. With a body length reaching up to 80 centimeters, it is the largest owl on the continent, yet its weight is a clever illusion made of feathers and air. It does not rely on the raw strength of an eagle or the speed of a falcon. Its ultimate advantage lies in its face. That immense facial disc functions like a biological satellite dish, collecting the faintest vibrations from the ground and amplifying them toward ears set unevenly beneath a layer of soft plumage. Along Moose Wilson Road, the game of hide-and-seek unfolds with the highest possible stakes. The great gray owl sees through sound. Its asymmetrical ear structure allows the brain to calculate a target's position in three-dimensional space, with precision measured in millimeters. Even when prey is hidden beneath 60 centimeters of snow or dense layers of vegetation, this silent specialist can sense the rhythm of life below. Field measurements confirm that its hearing reaches extremely low frequencies entirely beyond human perception. This is the pinnacle of natural aeronautical design. The fringed edges of its wing feathers break turbulent airflow into smaller streams, allowing an approach that delivers no warning at all. When the decisive moment arrives, it does so in complete stillness. Long, razor-sharp talons slip through grass and secure the spine of its quarry before awareness has time to form. A swift and efficient resolution with no wasted energy. In the world of the great gray owl, display is the enemy of efficiency. The meal ends as quickly as it begins. Energy has been gathered, and the hunter returns to a state of stillness, dissolving into the trunk of a pine tree. At Grand Teton, the balance of the ecosystem is upheld by quiet silhouettes like this. But as darkness eases and brilliant light spreads across wide-open lakes, another presence will emerge, one with the eyes of the high country and unquestioned command of the open sky. The journey now leaves the dense forests of Moose Wilson Road and moves toward the vast waters of Jackson Lake, where another symbol of freedom and power reigns, a sight to behold. At the northern edge of the valley, dense forest gives way to the unforgiving vastness of Jackson Lake. This is a massive pocket of icy water, plunging to depths of 134 meters, sustained by pure flows descending from the high country. The lake's surface lies still like a mirror, reflecting the ambitions of those who command the skies above. Here, existence is not granted freely. It must be claimed. Atop weathered Douglas fir trees, the bald eagle surveys the world with the quiet confidence of a ruler. Its eyes, packed with visual cells at a density 5 times greater than those of humans, allow it to detect a subtle trace of color against snow from more than 3 kilometers away. For a national symbol, much of its time is spent on a task far less glamorous than heroic posters suggest, feeding on remains left behind. In Jackson Hole, the exposed body of an elk after the thaw holds the value of buried treasure. It is a rich source of protein, conserving energy that would otherwise be spent pursuing swift salmon beneath icy water. A young bald eagle, still lacking the signature white feathers on its head, reaches the prize first. It does not yet have the experience of a seasoned veteran, but it carries the bold resolve of one driven by hunger. When an older bald eagle swoops in with clear intent to take over, the usual hierarchy is suddenly tested. The younger bird spreads its 2-meter wingspan wide, forming a powerful visual barrier and releasing sharp, piercing calls. This is more than a dispute over food. This is a moment where everything is on the line. In the world of birds of prey, the one who arrives later is expected to wait, unless the first is prepared to rely on talons capable of gripping with 10 times the strength of an adult human hand. Bold resolve prevails over authority. The young eagle holds its ground at the pungent banquet, a hard-earned lesson in survival at Jackson Lake. With energy restored, the game continues across higher plains. Leaving the frozen waters behind, the realm of land-grazing animals comes into view, where speed and awareness form the only boundary between a successful meal and a swift reversal of fortune, down to the wire. At the highest reaches of Grand Teton National Park, gravity feels like an unproven theory. This is the realm of the mountain goat, the most daring figures in the world of hoofed animals. While other species choose the safety of the valleys, this creature finds calm on cliffs so steep that even seasoned climbers hesitate. They are not simply climbing, they are challenging the very rules of physics. One misstep can send a body sweeping hundreds of meters into open space. Yet the species carries an almost unshakable confidence in its ability to hold fast. The secret behind this remarkable skill lies in the biomechanical design of its hooves. Unlike human climbing shoes, mountain goat hooves feature 2 flexible toes with a hard outer rim surrounding a soft inner pad, generating extreme friction similar to synthetic rubber. This pad functions like a suction cup, gripping even the smoothest rock surfaces. Powerful shoulders shift much of the body's weight forward, providing the traction needed for vertical leaps. These animals are not goats in the common sense of the word. They are the last surviving members of an ancient branch of the bovine family, perfectly adapted to turn extreme terrain into an unbreakable fortress. Yet their presence at Grand Teton has become an ecological debate. Introduced from neighboring mountain ranges in the mid-20th century, mountain goats are now considered unwelcome newcomers by park managers. Their growing numbers create an uneven struggle over scarce alpine vegetation and place mounting pressure on native species. The latest wildlife management records confirm that removing them from the highest peaks is necessary to preserve the original balance of the ecosystem. These master climbers now face a forced relocation, yielding the stage to the true long-standing residents of these cliffs. In the shadow of these pale-coated outsiders, a true symbol of the high country is working to reclaim its place. As control over granite ledges becomes increasingly contested, formidable contenders with massive curved horns begin to emerge from hidden slopes. Ready for a decisive confrontation, the stakes could not be higher. If mountain goats are the bold, unauthorized climbers, then bighorn sheep are the true stewards of these heights. This is the Teton range population, a native community that has held its ground for thousands of years, even as the last glaciers slowly withdrew. An adult male carries horns weighing up to 14 kilograms, nearly 10% of its total body mass. These are not decorative ornaments. They are solid bone boxing gloves, ready to turn any dispute into a high-speed collision. During the breeding season, subtlety has no place here. Two males charge at one another with a combined speed reaching 32 kilometers per hour. The force involved would overwhelm the skeleton of most other animals, yet the bighorn sheep's brain remains remarkably protected. The secret lies in a double-layered skull with honeycomb-like cavities functioning as advanced hydraulic shock absorbers. In addition, a specialized biological response increases blood volume within cerebral vessels, forming a pressure cushion that stabilizes the brain during impact. Yet their greatest challenge does not come from gravity or hot-tempered neighbors. A quieter and far more persistent threat hangs over these peaks. The bacterium Mycoplasma ovipneumonia, a respiratory pathogen often transferred from domestic livestock, has become a serious concern for many bighorn sheep herds across the West. Because the Grand Teton population is genetically isolated, the spread of illness can unsettle an entire generation within just a few short seasons. The latest wildlife status reports document determined efforts to maintain separation between these sheep and introduced species, preserving the final strands of this mountain's native lineage. As the limestone kingdom sinks into shadow, contests of raw strength gradually subside. But lower down, beneath the absolute stillness of snow-dusted cedar canopies, a different kind of hunter begins its shift. These are players that rely not on the spectacle of horns, but on invisibility and footsteps as soft as falling snow to take control of the survival game, quiet as a mouse. Within the subalpine forest layers of Grand Teton National Park, the presence of this creature is often treated more like a rumor than an obvious fact. The Canada lynx, a being with amber eyes that seem to read straight through the secrets of winter. This is a phantom made real, a master of concealment shaped by evolution to thrive where snowfall grows so deep it buries nearly every chance of survival. In Jackson Hole, encountering a Canada lynx is as rare as spotting a gemstone locked inside a glacier. They are not hiding. They simply do not exist within the field of view of the untrained eye. The secret of this ghostly ruler lies in its footsteps. Its paws have an enormous surface area, functioning like natural snowshoes. Surface pressure measurements show that this species exerts only about 2 kilopascals on snow, far less than any other hunter of comparable size. While competitors struggle to lift their legs through chest-deep drifts, the Canada lynx glides across the surface like a dancer on an icy stage. The result is maximum energy conservation. The signature black tufts atop its ears are far more than a stylish identifier. They serve as finely tuned acoustic guides, enhancing the ability to pinpoint prey within dense forest cover. This auditory system, paired with a retina packed with an exceptionally high density of rod cells, turns the lynx into one of the most efficient low-light specialists in the wild. In the world of the Canada lynx, darkness is an advantage, and deep snow is an ally. Every feature, from its thick coat to its short black-tipped tail, serves a single purpose: becoming the most complete master of invisibility in Grand Teton's miniature ice age. Such extreme specialization becomes a burden as conditions shift. As snowfall patterns across the Rocky Mountains begin to change, the survival corridors of this species grow increasingly narrow. The lynx is pushed higher and farther into the harshest terrain to preserve the isolation it depends on. Yet even in the far reaches of cold and silence, as the forest phantom recedes, another hunter with unyielding resolve and far greater intensity is preparing to step forward, ready to test the outer limits of endurance waiting in the wings. Gulo Gulo. Its scientific name translates as the Great Eater, yet in the high reaches of Grand Teton, it is better understood as a tribute to iron will. This is the wolverine, a compact butcher weighing under 15 kilograms, carrying the spirit of a grizzly. Do not let its bear-like and marten-like appearance mislead the eye. These are nature's outlaws, the only hunters willing to meet the stare of an entire gray wolf pack and reclaim what is theirs. Its strength is not defined by size, but by an extreme survival mindset. Never retreat, never give in. The wolverine's ultimate advantage lies in a remarkable dental design shaped for absolute efficiency. Its first upper molar is rotated inward by 90 degrees, functioning like a biological pair of locking pliers. This structure allows it to crush frozen bone as if it were steel and carve nourishment from remains locked in ice. Where other species reach the limits of endurance, the wolverine finds opportunity. Its coat is an engineering marvel, fully hydrophobic, resisting moisture and ice buildup. Each hair carries a specialized structure that prevents ice crystals from clinging, allowing it to rest comfortably through blizzards that would halt nearly all activity. In late 2023, federal wildlife authorities officially listed the wolverine in the lower 48 states as a threatened species. Here lies the hard truth. A hunter unshaken by rivals now faces uncertainty driven by vanishing snow. The species depends entirely on deep spring snowpacks to carve dens and raise young. Without this natural cold storage, the rhythm of survival begins to unravel. As the high country butcher withdraws into cold stone crevices, the pulse of Grand Teton shifts with the movement of water. Leaving behind the unforgiving cliffs, the journey flows downstream toward the gentle curves of Oxbow Bend, where an entirely different world comes into view, a change of pace. At the heart of Grand Teton, the chaos of the high country gives way to an illusion of calm. Oxbow Bend. This secluded curve of the Snake River is where time itself seems to pause. It is a nutrient-rich ecological pocket, a premium dining ground for those drawn to stillness and slow-moving water. Yet this picture-perfect beauty is a visual trap. Beneath the placid surface, an intense race for energy unfolds. Here, stillness becomes a weapon, and elegance often conceals the heaviest biological machines of the North American sky. Looks can be deceiving. Forget the image of graceful ballet dancers gliding across the water. The trumpeter swan is a true heavyweight of the waterfowl world. With a body mass reaching up to 13 kilograms and a wingspan stretching nearly 3 meters, they are not merely birds. They are feathered flying fortresses dressed in white. Their calls, echoing all the way to distant granite cliffs, come from an unusual anatomical design. A trachea longer than 1 meter, coiled inside the breastbone like a brass instrument. This design amplifies sound to its fullest, turning every call into a statement of authority broadcast across the entire Jackson Hole Valley. Their presence here stands as proof of an unshakable will to endure. Once pushed to the brink in the early 20th century, with only about 33 individuals recorded in the United States, the trumpeter swan has staged a remarkable comeback. They do not require excessive protection. They need open water that does not freeze and a dependable food supply. The Greater Yellowstone Ecosystem Report notes that this population remains stable thanks to restored freshwater corridors. Yet deep loyalty to mates and territory makes them more sensitive when climate shifts alter the freezing rhythms of rivers. While these white sentinels command the lake through sound and steady presence, the shoreline belongs to those built on raw muscle and mass. Leaving the mirror-like surface of Oxbow Bend behind, the wetlands begin to tremble under the weight of another symbol, one that wears the crown of the old forest and carries a spirit unshaken by any rival, built like a tank. In the lowlands around Oxbow Bend, the river's calm is broken by the footsteps of a true army. Elk, also known as wapiti, are muscular heavyweights exceeding 300 kilograms, the backbone of the Grand Teton ecosystem. As autumn arrives, these animals turn the valley into an arena of sound and authority. They do not seek attention. They command compliance. To witness the crown atop a mature elk is to witness a marvel of biological growth speed. This is the fastest growing bone tissue on the planet, capable of extending more than 2 centimeters per day. An immense draw on calcium, all devoted to a brief season of display. Yet the most formidable tool is not carried on the head, but within the throat. The elk's signature call is a dual sound technique. A deep, resonant roar layered with a piercing whistle produced at the same time. A unique anatomical setup allows precise control of lips and nostrils to generate two distinct sound frequencies, a strategy for broadcasting health and territorial standing without physical confrontation. Life within this antlered republic is a chain of constant demands. To sustain such massive bodies, an individual must consume up to 9 kilograms of vegetation each day. In Jackson Hole, they are not merely grazers, they are landscape engineers, shaping the growth of willow and birch forests. Dense gatherings, however, bring their own challenges. State monitoring reports in Wyoming confirm a rising presence of chronic wasting disease, a neurological condition that spreads quietly through herds. For a species built on collective strength, these unseen pressures pose a greater test than any visible rival. As the giants retreat into the shade of pine forests to recover, the stage shifts to those that hold records for speed. Leaving the river corridors shaped by elk behind, the open plains ahead prepare to host the performance of true endurance athletes, ready to steal the show. East of the paved road, Grand Teton's wilderness sheds its forested cloak and opens into an arena with nowhere to hide. Antelope Flats. Here, the human landmarks of Mormon Row stand as quiet time markers, watching a relentless race for survival that has unfolded for millions of years. This is a place where vision is a weapon and speed is the only creed. Across these wind-swept plains, safety becomes a luxury measured by the distance between the pursuer and the pursued. Meet the creature with one of the most unusual biological designs in North America: pronghorn. They are not antelope at all, but the last living members of a family that dates back to the Miocene epoch. This animal is proof of deliberate over-engineering by nature. Its eyes, with a 320-degree field of view, can detect the slightest movement from as far as 6 kilometers away, comparable to a human constantly looking through binoculars with 8 times magnification. In the world of the pronghorn, surprise simply does not exist. When they begin to run, you are witnessing a ghost from deep time. With a top speed reaching 90 kilometers per hour, the pronghorn is the fastest land mammal in the Western Hemisphere. Why maintain such extreme speed when today's fastest rival, the gray wolf, peaks at around 60 kilometers per hour? The answer lies millions of years in the past, when survival depended on outrunning the now vanished American cheetah. To sustain this ability, the pronghorn carries a biological turbo system. An oversized trachea, lungs with triple the capacity of deer of similar size, and a heart disproportionately large work together to deliver oxygen-rich blood to working muscles. They do not run merely to escape. They run to assert absolute mechanical dominance across open ground. Their horns also break conventional rules. They combine the permanent horn structure of bovines with the seasonal shedding cycle of deer. The outer sheath is shed and regrown each year, an energetically demanding renewal that preserves their competitive edge. Yet the glory of speed carries its own risks. Migration reports along the path of the pronghorn corridor document how artificial barriers such as barbed wire fences constrict their 270-kilometer movement route. For a born runner, confinement within narrow spaces becomes the most severe and silent setback imaginable. On the open surface of Antelope Flats, speed reigns supreme. But just beneath the hooves of the fastest runners on Earth, another form of power remains hidden, one that relies not on wide eyes or long strides, but on claws built to pierce hardened ground and a steady resolve to command the darkness beneath the green grass, waiting for its moment. American badger. Do not let the short legs and pancake-flat profile fool the eye. This is a 10-kilogram armored vehicle, engineered with a single purpose: turning the ground itself into a sealed chamber for any prey that hesitates. Nature did not grant it the look of a runway star, but in return, it delivered butcher-grade claws and a mindset that knows no such thing as yielding. This is the pinnacle of biological tunneling engineering. Each claw of the American badger can reach up to 10 centimeters in length. Anchored by a 4-limb skeleton with extremely high mineral density and massive muscle attachment points, a fully grown individual can vanish into Wyoming's compact soil faster than a grown man wielding a professional shovel. Paired with this power is a peculiar defensive system, skin that is both exceptionally thick and remarkably loose. If a challenger grabs the back of an American badger's neck, the animal can rotate its body 180 degrees within its own skin and deliver a bone-crushing bite in return. It is a startling escape mechanism, flipping the balance in an instant. Around Mormon Row, survival sometimes forges the strangest partnerships. This is a business arrangement with no room for friendship. When the American badger begins a subterranean siege, ground squirrels burst from emergency exits in frantic escape. And there, the coyote is already waiting. Wildlife monitoring data shows that hunting efficiency rises sharply for both species when they work in tandem. The American badger gains early warning from above, while the coyote enjoys an effortless meal made possible by the tunnel master's excavation. It is cooperation driven by pure pragmatism and shared reward, a textbook example of multi-species interaction within the Grand Teton ecosystem. As evening light fades, the prairie butcher slips back into the darkness below ground, leaving behind a surface pocked with openings and a heavy silence. Their presence is a seal of approval for a healthy ecosystem where every layer of life is tightly interwoven. From frozen granite summits to the shadowed tunnels beneath Antelope Flats, each creature has written its own chapter in a long story of resilience. Hunters, scavengers, and grazing warriors alike have all played their roles along the delicate line between endurance and disappearance in this land. Full circle. The journey through the heart of Wyoming, from Yellowstone to Grand Teton National Park, reveals a system driven by precision and uncompromising efficiency. From sheer granite walls to towering columns of boiling water, life continually finds ways to emerge within the narrow margins of the extreme. This is a symphony of senses, where every heartbeat is calculated to optimize thermodynamic performance in the cold sweep of Wyoming's landscape. These strategies are more than instinct alone. They are feats of biological engineering that sustain the delicate balance of the entire Jackson Hole Valley. As the final sunlight slips behind the Teton Range, a new cycle begins for those who roam and those who move unseen after dusk. To respect these solitary figures is to honor the wild origin within ourselves, carried forward through the endless current of creation, back to our roots. A journey across the harshest boundaries of the Wyoming wilderness has come to a close, revealing the true character of its most extreme survivors. Which creature in this chain compelled you to redefine what strength means in the wild? Was it the relentless grit of the Northwestern wolf or the masterful stealth of the Canada lynx, a phantom moving through snow-covered forests? Your reflections on the tactics and resolve of these wild species will be a vital piece in the conversation below. Do not forget to press like and subscribe to continue traveling with me on future field journeys, where we will keep unraveling nature's most intriguing survival codes.